Part 127. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1261. Let us open the God's perspective and briefly explain why the former Cancer Gold Saint Death Mask was reborn as the third guard of the insect-human race. Xiaoming entered the world of Saint Seiya that year. At that time, all 12 gold saints died in front of the wall of size in the underworld. Later, Hades, the king of the underworld, was destroyed, and the underworld gradually collapsed. Later, it was still up to Xiaoming to use the source energy to maintain the underworld again. However, only a part of it could be maintained. Therefore, when Xiaoming left the world, he took away a large piece of the underworld. Or it should be said that the underworld needs the support of the source energy, and this piece actively followed Xiaoming. And because of such a large piece of the underworld, Xiaoming was able to directly reach the high level of the King of Hell in the underworld, Soul Gem. The area of the Wall of Size was completely destroyed because it was close to the Pure Land of Bliss. The souls of those gold saints also disappeared. The only exception is Death Mask. He is the gold saint who knows the underworld best, and he often uses the power of the soul when fighting. So although he died in the underworld, his residual soul can still move in the underworld by intuition. Feeling the crisis of the underworld's impending destruction, Death Mask's residual soul took the initiative to leave the Wall of Size. After a while, he found Green Xiaoming, who was practicing in the underworld at that time. Under the call of intuition, Death Mask was absorbed by Xiaoming in a way that Xiaoming did not notice. This is also one of the reasons why the Cancer Gold Saint cloth took the initiative to appear in front of Green Xiaoming. It came with its own Saint Seiya. Until today, Death Mask got the opportunity to be reborn. Because he must be reborn as a 7th level guard. Except for the identity of one of the 3 major guards, other insect generals, insect school, insect lieutenants, are not worthy of Death Mask. A residual soul is still picky. Neferpitou is actually in the same situation, but it is earlier than Death Mask. Xiaoming is not very clear about the reincarnation mechanism of insect humans. Maybe everything is arranged by Xiaoming's subconscious mind. Even if Death Mask is the weaker one among the gold saints, he is still an A-level master. Like Neferpitou, he has basically retained his abilities in his lifetime. And he has undoubtedly obtained the ownership of the Cancer Gold Cloth. Of the various saints that Xiaoming brought out from the world of Saint Seiya, only the Arctic Ocean Devilfish Scale Cloth remains. Wear it more when you have time, maybe even this one will disappear someday. Death Mask has to get rid of some of his previous evil habits when he lives under Xiaoming. Things like torturing souls and using wronged souls are definitely not allowed. However, there is an entire underworld as a backer behind him. Death Mask's ability is much stronger than it was back then. It is no less than the other 2 guards. At the same time, with him, Xiaoming also has the best candidate to help sit in the underworld of Quafu. Look, he immediately helped a lot. In the spiritual world, Xiaoming, Death Mask, Sun Xiaotian and Phantom Cat all stood in front of a shapeless object. One Tail and 9 Tails were still patrolling everywhere in the spiritual world. This thing was actually the spiritual body of a person, Fang's Hishuan. And his soul was under the heavy protection of this spiritual body. Since Xiaoming captured it, he has been using the moon reading world to wear down this spiritual body. It's like a big slime, not even in human form. Fang's Hishuan is also a very powerful guy, who has been holding on until now. Xiaoming has forgotten him. Death Mask is a special talent, and he is particularly sensitive to this kind of thing. Zhang Zhong and Neferpitou can't feel it. He took the initiative to ask, "My lord, I can solve this guy for you." However, Xiaoming politely rejected Death Mask's offer. He just forgot about Fang's Hishuan, not really taking him away. To deal with evil enemies, Xiaoming already has an extremely powerful attack move, Reward Good and Punish Evil sword. As long as it is driven by the orange source energy, that is, the power of the underworld, and is emitted from oneself, this move can even kill S-level enemies. As long as the opponent deserves to die. As expected, a shrill spiritual howl sounded after the sword went down, and the Tsukuyomi world seemed to have experienced a 7.8 magnitude earthquake, rumbling and shaking for a long time. Being able to create such an effect before dying, Fang's Heishuan is really amazing. He is worthy of being a master who monopolizes a private world. Fang's Heishuan was completely killed, and his soul was taken into the underworld by Xiaoming himself, and Death Mask followed him. That lump of spirit body broke apart and turned into primitive spiritual power. In time, it will be slowly purified and absorbed by Xiaoming's spiritual world. At present, neither Sun Xiaotian nor Phantom Cat Katie look down on these spiritual powers filled with evil thoughts. They prefer to absorb spiritual power directly from Xiaoming's spiritual world. The taste is much better than this lump. Katie was quite naughty. She tipped a little bit of Fang's Heishuan's spiritual power, licked it, and immediately spat it out. So disgusting. Sun Xiaotian laughed so hard that he fell down. He often mingled in other people's spiritual worlds, and he knew what the spiritual power tasted like. He didn't even think about tasting it. But he was also very mean. He didn't stop Katie's behavior, which made Katie chase him around the spiritual world. In the underworld of Quafu, Xiaoming was carefully browsing Fang's Heishuan's life. Death Mask thought it was boring, so he went to the underworld to play around. You don't know until you see it, and you will be shocked when you see it. Xiaoming is also well informed. However, Fang's Heishuan's life still shocked him. Before, Xiaoming could not tell Fang's Heishuan's gender, but just judged from the name that he was probably a man. In fact, it was wrong. This is a woman, whose real name is Kawashima Yoshiko. The Far Island Strange Man series of books gave a relatively detailed description of this person. Kawashima Yoshiko, also known as Kawashima Dongzhen, was named Chenzi, and her Chinese name was Jin Baiwei. She was a Japanese spy. She was the 14th daughter of Prince Shunkai of the Qing dynasty. After the demise of the Qing dynasty, Shunkai wanted to use the power of Japan to restore the country, and gave his daughter Xianyu to the Japanese spy Kawashima Naniwa as an adopted daughter. Xianyu changed her name to Kawashima Yoshiko from then on, and was sent to Japan to receive education in all aspects. After she became an adult, she returned to China and worked as a spy for Japan for a long time. She served as the Commander-in-Chief of the Angguo Army and Commander-in-Chief of the North China People's Self-Defense Army of the puppet man Hyukyo. She personally participated in and directed many events that harmed the country and the people. She was called a female spy in men's clothing and the Oriental female devil. After the victory of the anti-Japanese war, she was sentenced to death for treason. But these are all things that happened in a parallel world. The history of the Pangustar world has been completely different since the end of the Tang dynasty. The Qing dynasty was not established at all, so how could another Kawashima Yoshiko appear? WTF? Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1262. Could it be that some reincarnation brought Kawashima Yoshiko out from some reincarnation world? Or was it some cosplay guy who deceived himself? After checking this person's life, Xiaoming knew that Kawashima Yoshiko was not a plot character, but a native Chinese from Pangustar. Of course, her real name is not Kawashima Yoshiko, nor is it Isenjuro Xianyu, nor is it a name like Jin Baiwei or Kawashima Dongzhen. It's just a very ordinary name Hung Fang. Born in a very ordinary family, the family traces back to the ancestors, and there are some Jurchen bloodlines. This is not surprising at all. Even if the 12 Kings family changed the fate of the Chinese nation, it is impossible to kill all the Jurchens. They just integrated them into the Han bloodline early. Even the Japanese were not exterminated, let alone the Jurchens. The 12 Kings family would not do anything to massacre a clan. After Hung Fang was born, she has been living like an ordinary person, and she doesn't even know that she has any Jurchen bloodline. At the age of 12, she was chosen by the reincarnation space and became a reincarnationist. A child, whose outlook on life, worldview, and values are not stable. If you are not careful, you will go astray. By chance, Hung Fang learned about some deeds of Kawashima Yoshiko. She actually admired her inexplicably. It was probably a natural antisocial personality. After imitating and cosplaying for many years, she was influenced by some people and came to a conclusion. She was Kawashima Yoshiko of the Pangustar world, born with destiny. Since then, she abandoned her real name and named herself Kawashima Yoshiko. But this name is easy to attract the attention of mainstream families. So she changed the order, reduced one word, and called herself Fangs Hishuan to the outside world. Kawashima Yoshiko has been engaged in the so-called great cause of subverting the Chinese regime and restoring the glory of the Jurchens. Basically, there is nothing good in what she did. Later, she also realized a key point, that is, everything must be respected by strength. How can you compete with the 12 kings without strength? In the world of Beyond the Aquila Rift, she took over the body of the alien spider, which was her plan to improve her strength. This plan was going smoothly, but she had bad luck and met Xiaoming. Xiaoming perfectly restrained Kawashima Yoshiko in terms of ability, and now her soul has returned to the underworld. There are actually many people like Kawashima Yoshiko on Pangustar, and they formed a secret organization Qingyuan Society. On the surface, this name comes from a poem by Zhu 11, asking how can it be so clear? Because there is a source of living water. It looks quite artistic. In fact, the two words Qingyuan represent two dynasties established by ethnic minorities that did not appear on Pangustar, the Qing dynasty and the Yuan dynasty. All members think they are descendants of the Jurchens or Mongols, and some even think that they are Genghis Khan and Nurasi who came into being in the world of Pangustar. By analogy, there are other similar organizations on Pangustar, representing Japan, the United States, Australia, and other countries that will never appear again. As well as some European countries that were once very powerful on the parallel world Earth, but appeared very weak on Pangustar. England, Russia, and so on were the first to bear the brunt. The common enemy of these organizations is the Chinese countries and the 12 kings of Deccan behind them. To this day, the governments of various countries in China and the 12 kings are also well aware of these organizations. The leaders of these organizations have basically been exposed. Because they are wanted, they have almost been living in the reincarnation space and dare not show up on Pangustar. Don't underestimate these people. Although they are behind the scenes, their evil tentacles are still fanning the flames in various parts of Pangustar through their subordinates. Kawashima Yoshiko is not clear about how powerful they are. Her position in Qingyuan society can only be regarded as a small middle-level leader. She knows almost nothing about the top leaders, she knows very little about people of the same level, she knows her subordinates best. However, her behavior of taking over the body of the spider was actually her own initiative and was not approved by the top leaders. Over the past 100 years, her connection with Qingyuan society has been severed. Her goal is very clear. As long as she can succeed and return to the reincarnation space as an S-level or even above S-level, Qingyuan society will definitely treat her as a treasure. If her own strength is not good, she will still be cannon fodder for the top leaders no matter what. It is better to fight hard and eat meat and drink soup. She never expected that the ending would be cold. Kawashima Yoshiko believed very devoutly that she herself was Kawashima Yoshiko in this world, and her boss was Nurichi in this world. The other people who came into being were also real. Therefore, she came to a conclusion. Or it can be said that Qingyuan society has such a belief. Pangustar world was actually a reincarnation world. I don't know who transformed it into a private world and brought it out, changed history, and then connected it with the real world. Qingyuan society highly suspected that the people who did this were the group of people who were the 12 kings of Dakan. Otherwise, there shouldn't be so many people who came into being. It's reasonable to have one or two similar ones. But the fact that so many of them popped up is thought-provoking. This phenomenon can only happen in the private world. In other words, these people are characters in the plot, and there is always a chance for them to pop up. Xiaoming was shocked to see this statement. He really never doubted that Pangostar world was once a reincarnation world. This is just like the rumors that often appear on the internet. Even some scientists' conjectures. There is not enough evidence to support it, nor is there enough evidence to refute it. For example, there is a famous conjecture in the scientific community, brain in a vat. Simply put, all human perceptions come from the brain. If you only have one brain, all signals are provided by a machine in the outside world, which is exactly the same as the real signal. So how do you judge whether you are a normal person or just a deceived brain? The world of the Matrix that Xiaoming once experienced is a similar situation. This conjecture is almost impossible to confirm or disprove. It is also a conjecture that Pangostar world is a private world. However, Qingyuan society's conjecture still has a chance to verify it. Whether the 12 kings have done such a thing, their own family may know. In addition, the reincarnation space is probably aware of it. But they are not obliged to solve Xiaoming's doubts. If the reincarnation space is unwilling to answer this doubt, I don't know if my master Acha can answer it. Or maybe she is just a plot character. Besides, with my master Acha's personality, even if she is willing to answer, Xiaoming doesn't know if he can believe it. Xiaoming was confused after thinking about this kind of thing for a few minutes. Of course, he soon came to a conclusion. He doesn't need to consider the nature of the world, nor does he need to inquire, just act according to his own heart. Just do good things and don't ask about the future. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1263. By the way, as a top-level A-level expert, Yoshiko Kawashima used a powerful reincarnation item to apply defensive measures to herself. After she was controlled by Xiaoming, this defensive measure was activated. But since then, Xiaoming has not entered the reincarnation space due to the interview in the underworld, so it cannot be officially effective. The reason why the Star Wars world has undergone strange changes this time, causing everyone to fall into a dead end. It is because of Yoshiko Kawashima's move. So, the reincarnations of the Qin Wang family are actually implicated by Xiaoming. There will be a follow-up to this matter in the future. Let's put it aside for now. Compared with the conjecture that Pangostar is just a private world, Yoshiko Kawashima's other speculation seems more reliable. She believes that the world war hundreds of years ago was actually premeditated. There has only been one world war that affected the world in this world. Mainstream textbooks say that in the late Qin Empire, the contradictions of the 12 kings who formed the Round Table Council intensified, triggering a world war, involving other countries in the world. After the 100 Years' War, the later Qin dynasty split into more than 20 countries with Chinese as the main body, all over the world. Some of them are allies, and some are hostile. To this day, there are often some small frictions between the Chinese countries. Of course, because all major countries have nuclear weapons in stock, the world war is estimated to never be fought again. Unlike the Earth in the parallel world, dozens of nuclear bombs are enough to destroy human civilization, and no Chinese country will make thousands or tens of thousands of them. They are just bored. However, in Kawashima Yoshiko's mind, The truth is not like this at all. The World War is actually a game made by the 12 kings, the main purpose of which is to consume the population of other non-Chinese Miao people. The fact after the war is that the population of other races in the world has been greatly reduced in the war, and the Chinese people have obviously died less in the war. But this situation is also reasonable. After all, the predecessors of the Chinese countries are the major Chinese families headed by the 12 kings, who have a relatively high status all over the world. As a result, the Chinese are also superior. When the war breaks out, of course they will not become cannon fodder. It is completely reasonable for the citizens of the vassal states or the ruled ethnic groups to play more of a cannon fodder role. The real strong evidence is after the war. The Chinese countries have imposed strict restrictions on population births. As a result, the Han people have become the largest ethnic group on Pangu Star. The reason for the restriction is very sufficient. Pangu Star has limited resources and a limited population that can be maintained. Humans should not expand their population indefinitely. War is the consequence of population expansion. Not only did the Chinese countries do this, but even some powerful European countries had to follow suit and implement some degree of policy to restrict the population. Not to mention those countries with little strength. Effective population control has enabled the people of Pangu Star to generally live a decent life, with enough food and warm clothes. Few people starved to death. Although Kawashima Yoshiko regarded the World War as a large-scale conspiracy that lasted for more than 100 years, Xiaoming felt that even if it was a conspiracy, it was not all bad. Although the way it was executed seemed cruel. But think about it from another angle. If there was no war, and the later Qin Empire issued a tough decree to restrict population birth, what would happen? There is no doubt that people of all ethnic groups except the Huaxia region are likely to rise up and rebel against the Qin dynasty. In that case, it is the state machine of the later Qin dynasty that is against all other races, and it has become a racial war. Maybe even some Han people will follow the rebellion. After careful consideration, it seems that the current result is better. Although the strategy of launching a war is vicious, it is also a kind heart. Unconsciously, Xiaoming believed in Kawashima Yoshiko's speculation. Of course, it doesn't matter whether he believes it or not. There is no need to entangle with things that happened hundreds of years ago. When Kawashima Yoshiko was taken down by Xiaoming, she had reached the height of A+. If it weren't for the fact that her own ability was completely restrained by Xiaoming, the outcome would be unknown. In addition to being able to take over the body, she also has an ability similar to the star-absorbing method. However, it is not the internal force that is absorbed, but the spiritual power of others. Xiaoming is slightly interested. Unfortunately, this ability comes from a certain type of reincarnation world. Because it is an ability granted by space, Kawashima Yoshiko can only use it, and does not know how to practice it. Xiaoming is different. Almost all of his abilities are figured out and simulated by himself. There are almost no abilities directly granted by space. As a result, Xiaoming cannot learn the skill of Kawashima Yoshiko. In fact, Kawashima Yoshiko's situation is the norm in the reincarnation space. Reincarnators with low levels do not have so much time to study and polish skills from scratch. They rely on the space to give them ready-made. The reason is also very simple. First, there is not enough time. In the weekly reincarnation mission, most reincarnations are just trying to survive. How can they have so much free time to practice slowly? Second, there is not enough energy. Each skill requires a certain kind of supernatural energy. And if you want to master the skills, you have to use them repeatedly. Normal reincarnations simply do not have enough supernatural energy. In the real world, supernatural energy lacks a source of replenishment. Reincarnations like Xiaoming who can be self-sufficient are simply rare. Of course, the major forces still have ways to solve it. The masters who surpass the S level among them will create some private worlds with sufficient supernatural energy for the use of their descendants. This is the case with the Holy Land of the Li family. However, the energy of the Holy Land is not infinite. Even the largest forces have a focus on the training of their descendants. Similarly, Yoshiko Kawashima is also a person who knows her own abilities but does not know why. Even if Xiaoming looked up her life, he could not learn any skills from her. The characters in the plot are still more useful. Especially Master Yoda. The leader has studied the Force with Master Yoda for nearly 5 years. He has mastered a variety of skills related to the Force and enjoyed the various benefits brought by the Force. One comprehensively strengthened physiological functions, such as fast movement, up and down, superhuman reaction speed. It can even prolong life. Master Yoda has always stood at the top of the Jedi Order at the age of 900 and a height of 0.66 meters, because the Force has greatly enhanced his physical strength. Of course, most supernatural energies can also do this. For Xiaoming, the Force is just the icing on the cake. To life sensing, mental sensing, and mind reading, Force-sensitive people can sense the existence of life and even its inner emotions by sensing the Force on living matter. If the Force cultivation reaches a certain level, it can even directly see through the object's thoughts. Xiaoming's telekinesis can also do this. In addition, Xiaoming also has Professor X's superpower telepathy. The combined use of several abilities will naturally have a better overall effect. 3. Mind-moving objects. Use the Force to control the movement of objects. The size of the moved object depends on the degree of Force knowledge. Of course, you can use the Force to push people or objects down. This skill is derived into moving air, which becomes the most basic Force attack skill, Force push. Both Jedi and Sith are proficient in using Force push/pull. Mental power, microcosm, and other supernatural energies all have the ability to move objects. In this regard, the microcosm seems to be even stronger. Xiaoming's gameplay is always to combine similar abilities and use them at the same time. 1 Add 1 2. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1264. For control others' thoughts, people who have practiced the Force more deeply can not only move objects in the physical sense, but also control others' spirits and thoughts, similar to hypnosis. The reason why the Sith Lord Darth Sidious can have so many followers is not entirely because he is good at bewitching people. This hypnotic ability plays a big role. In this regard, the Jedi Knights are at a great disadvantage. Their creed is that they are not allowed to control others' thoughts at will unless it is an emergency. Long-term control is an absolutely prohibited behavior. Even if it is absolutely necessary, they can only control for a short period of time. But the Sith have no such constraints and can do whatever they want. It is very likely that Anakin Skywalker will eventually surrender to Sidious, and he is also guided by his long-term and subtle hypnosis. As long as the hypnotic ability is used to make an ordinary person do a bad thing, Sidious can use it as a threat in the future and slowly let the other party get deeper and deeper. Think about those members of the parliament, how many of them are clean? It is no wonder that they will be controlled by Sidious. Of course, the premise of this ability is that the opponent is weak-willed. If the opponent is also a Force practitioner, then one's own Force cultivation must be much higher than the opponent. Anakin has been practicing the Force since he was a child in the capital Coruscant. Sidious had plenty of opportunities to slowly hypnotize the then uncertain little Anakin. Later, Anakin trusted Speaker Palpatine more than the Jedi Supreme Council. The ice is not frozen in a day. In addition, the universe is so big that there are all kinds of wonders. Some individual species in the world of Star Wars are immune to this control. For example, the Toydarians. They are short and fat, with blue skin, and a pair of small wings behind them, which can hover in the air. This race is immune. Back then, when little Anakin was a slave, his master Watto was a Toydarian, and his mind was not controlled by Master Qui Gonjin. Otherwise, things would have been much easier at the time, and even Anakin's mother Shmi Skywalker would have been rescued, and the tragedy 10 years later would not have happened. Xiao Ming thinks that the Jedi Knights were completely inconsiderate about this matter. Since they accepted Anakin, they should have rescued his mother as soon as possible. Why did they let her continue to be a slave for 10 years? It's not that little money. 5. Force lightning. This is a dark side skill of the Force. Use the Force to create lightning to attack the opponent. Sidious used this trick to kill Master Mace Windu. Jedi Knights also have a similar light side skill, Force Judgment. It is said that Master Kong was good at this skill. Since the Jedi Creed believes that the Force should be used to protect oneself rather than hurt others, its power is not as good as Force Lightning, which is known as electrical death. Force Judgment can make people lose their combat effectiveness without harming their lives. If controlled well, it can even prevent people from getting hurt. Therefore, it is usually used to subdue opponents who hold hostages. In addition, there are also some Jedi Knights with unique ideas who use the skill in the medical field by taking advantage of its low power and shine. Xiao Ming felt that he could learn a thing or two. However, his own methods were rather special, and he rarely needed to use electric shock. 6. Force defense. Do not use any weapons or protective gear, and directly call on the Force to defend. Only a Jedi Master with extremely high cultivation can do this. Master Yoda, who happened to teach the leader, was such a top master. In the original book, he was able to block and even bounce back the Force lightning of Count Dooku and Sidious with his bare hands. It is said that if this move is practiced to a high level, it can resist an indestructible lightsaber with bare hands. Xiao Ming did not know whether Master Yoda had reached this level, but he did not dare to cut him with a sword to test it. He just estimated that Master Yoda should be able to do it. Unfortunately, Xiao Ming himself could not use this trick. His defense circle can be said to be 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. This ability cannot be mixed in. 7. Predict the future. When the Force cultivation reaches a certain level, the Force practitioner will have the ability to predict the future. However, Master Yoda solemnly reminded the leader that this ability must be treated with great caution. Because this kind of foresight cannot know all the future, it only captures a video in the most likely future, or even just a feeling. Without understanding the ins and outs, taking action based on this feeling alone is likely to backfire. In general, the shorter the future, the clearer, more accurate and more reliable the feeling is. Jedi Knights have always trusted short-term predictions, which is also the guidance of the Force. But the longer the future, the more vague the feeling will be, and the uncertainty is very large. It is best not to act casually in the face of such things. Anakin Skywalker did so many things because he predicted the death of his wife Padme. As a result, he made mistakes and fell into the abyss of the Sith. Even if Master Yoda did not remind him, Xiao Ming had no interest in predicting the distant future. Instead, short-term intuition brought him a lot of benefits. Xiao Ming mastered the Force very early. He just didn't know how to apply it. In fact, he was guided by the Force many times along the way. He just thought it was his intuition. 8. Excellent comprehension ability. When Force practitioners learn knowledge other than the Force, they can also understand it faster than ordinary people. Master Yoda said so, but Xiao Ming was deeply skeptical. He didn't feel his IQ had improved, and it was still the same as before. If at this time, Master Yoda said, "Aren't you getting smarter?" Xiao Ming would be shocked. Fortunately, he is not that kind of person. He just explained it briefly. This improvement in understanding requires time to accumulate slowly. Generally, Jedi Knights become smarter and wiser without realizing it. They often don't feel it. Xiao Ming said, "Thank you for your words." 9. Healing by transferring the Force. This is the ability that Master Yoda developed independently after communicating with the leader. There is no healing skill in the powerful force system. Xiaoming is also drunk. In the process of practicing the force with Master Yoda, Xiaoming discussed this matter many times. He got the other party's recognition. Master Yoda is old and experienced. It took about a year to develop such an ability. Because it is a newly developed ability, it is inevitable that there are many shortcomings. A major disadvantage is that the consumption of the force is particularly large. It is far inferior to the healing technique in magic, the palm technique in ninjutsu, the Guanyin spell in Taoism, not to mention the breath of the archangel in the telekinesis system. From ancient times to the present, the Jedi Knights have never developed the force in this direction. Until today, the Jedi Knights have formal healing skills. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1265. The leader, Yin Xiaoming, has made great achievements in learning the Force, and the other Xiaomings have also done some decent things. After helping the Republic to quell the chaos in several star systems, the leader's guard, Hong Xiaoming, has been staying in the Kamino star system to learn cloning technology from the Kamino people. The Kamino people are slender, like normal humans stretched out. They have big glassy eyes, long necks and pale skin. The males of their race usually have protruding head fins, and this atavism can be traced back to their evolutionary origins in the Kamino Ocean. This planet is an ocean planet and there is no land at all. The atmosphere is full of water vapor, and there are strong winds and storms all year round. The cities where the Kamino people live are all supported by pillars above the sea surface. I don't know why it is more stable to build cities on the seabed. The capital city of Tipica stands in the turbulent ocean of Kamino. This airtight metropolis is supported by huge pillars and can withstand the beating of strong winds and huge waves. From a close distance, it can be seen that the graceful curves of the city's buildings help change and deflect the wind direction while resisting the harsh environment. The official residence of Kamino Prime Minister Ramasu is located here. Deep in Tipica city is a huge cloning factory, whose cloning technology is at the top level in the galaxy. As a Jedi Master and a confidant of the Jedi Supreme Council, the Master Guard was warmly received by Ramasu. He also ate the underwater delicacies of this planet. Through Ramasu, Xiaoming learned about the origin of the clone corps. The reason why the Kaminoans established this corps was actually commissioned by a mysterious Jedi Master, Sci-fi. Sci-fi once proposed that the Republic should build a strong army, but was rejected. So he accepted Palpatine's secret order, concealed the Jedi Council and the Galactic Republic Congress, came to Kamino, and secretly ordered a clone army. Obviously, Sci-fi was used by Sidious. And soon he was killed by Count Dooku, and all the information about him was deleted. This secret was later discovered by Master Obi-Wan. In the crisis, the Republic had to activate this clone army. Xiaoming had no interest in history. He came to Kamino to learn cloning technology. However, this is the specialty of the Kamino people, how could it be easily taught? Ramasu tactfully rejected Xiaoming's request. Xiaoming did not threaten with force. Instead, he took out his specialty, source energy enhanced food to lure Ramasu. Even though the Kamino people did not have a strong appetite, after tasting the triple source energy enhanced food, Ramasu really smelled it. From then on, Red Xiaoming needed to strengthen a certain amount of food every day to get the opportunity to study every day. This continued until he learned almost everything. It was because of the slow learning speed that Xiaoming thought that the saying that the Force could enhance the ability to understand was a bit exaggerated. Otherwise, why do I learn so slowly? Xiaoming once brought out a laboratory and many scientific researchers from the Avatar world. Some of them were transformed into insect humans. Now these people live and conduct scientific research in the Zerg territory in the demon world of Xiaoming's private world, the world of Yu Yu Hakusho. There are many things in the demon world for them to study. This time, Xiaoming will also bring back a lot of information. It is estimated that the scientific researchers under his command may not be enough. Fortunately, Xiaoming does not have too many requirements for scientific research. Basically, he lets them study casually and prepare for a rainy day. In most cases, Xiaoming does not need to use technological products at all. His strength can handle most situations. However, occasionally he will encounter a world of pure technology without supernatural energy, and Xiaoming will be at a loss. At that time, technological products can come in handy. So Xiaoming usually scratches and studies as much as he can. Just in case. In recent years, the leader's right guard, Huang Xiaoming, has not been idle. After living in the Neighbor Galaxy for a while, one day, Padme came to him with little Leia in her arms. "My lord, I have a favor to ask. Marry a chicken and follow the chicken, marry a dog and follow the dog." This queen actually regarded herself as a subordinate of the right guard of the leader together with her husband Anakin. Xiaoming felt very good about her. While reaching out to take the teasing of the little princess, he casually said, "It's a piece of cake. If you have anything, just tell me. I'll leave it to you, right, Leia?" Xiaoming was still answering Padme in the first half of the sentence, and the second half became Leia. Leia didn't understand anything, just looking at Huang Xiaoming and smiling foolishly. Xiaoming usually infused Leia with source energy. Leia was more affectionate to him than to her parents. Padme rolled her eyes and talked about her purpose. She hoped that the right guard of the leader could save the planet Tatooine. Tatooine is the home planet of the Skywalker family. A huge desert planet, belonging to the Arcanes region on the outskirts of the Milky Way, orbiting a binary star system. Because of the lack of resources and remote location, the Republic's forces could not take care of it at all. Therefore, Tatooine gradually became a lawless place. All kinds of criminals gathered here, wanted criminals, murderers, smugglers. There is even slavery here. Back then, Anakin and his mother were slaves of Jabba the Hutt. Later, Jabba lost them to Watto in a gambling game. Later, Anakin's mother died tragically on this planet. So Tatooine brought Anakin almost all painful memories. It was a thorn in Anakin's subconscious. In order to help her husband, Padme had a bold idea. If this planet could be saved, the evil that was rampant there could be ended, and all the slaves could be liberated. Perhaps Anakin could be given a shot of adrenaline. The Galactic Republic ruled most of the central region of the Milky Way, and it was really out of reach of the outer regions. There were more than one or two planets like Tatooine that were full of evil in the Milky Way. It was a daydream to want to liberate them all. But Padme believed that things should be solved step by step. We could always save one of the planets first. Don't let a small kindness go unnoticed. In fact, if Anakin wanted to wipe out the evil forces on Tatooine, he could do it with the 501st Legion. But so what? Once the 501st Legion left, Tatooine would return to its original state. The slaves would continue to suffer. I want to transport all the slaves on the planet and place them somewhere else. The cost is too high, and even the Naboo system cannot afford such a cost. So Padme thought of the portal skill of the right guard of the leader. With this skill, it is much easier to save those slaves. The Naboo system can fully accept these people. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1266. The vast universe is extremely dark and cold, and countless stars, whether far or near, look like small dots. There are two relatively large stars nearby. There is also a planet that can be seen clearly with the naked eye, which is the golden Tatooine. The planet is as dazzling as gold, but that is the light reflected by the vast desert. It is often mistaken for a star by uninformed people. 2 million years ago, Tatoin was also covered by vast oceans and jungles. Later, climate change caused the ocean to dry up, and the barren and desolate land of Tatoin evolved into a variety of terrains. There is also another saying that this change is actually man-made. It's just that the changes in Tatoin occurred before the establishment of the Republic, and the truth is long unknown. The main force coming to Tatoin this time is actually the robot army. Robots are the most suitable troops as cannon fodder. In addition, an elite force is composed of a part of the 501st Clone Army, a part of the Nabo Army, and a part of the Gungan Army. In name, the leader's right guard, Huang Xiaoming, is the commander-in-chief, but in fact, Anakin Skywalker is in charge of the command. This time, Xiaoming did not use the decapitation tactic again. The last time he dealt with the Trade Federation, it was because the enemy was numerous and we were few, so he had to do it. He could not always be a nanny for the Galactic Republic. The army of the Republic should also be trained well. Those gathered on Tatoin are just criminals, basically scattered soldiers and guerrillas, without two strong armed forces. It is perfect to use them for training. Although these guys also have their own spaceships, they are also equipped with energy weapons and even energy shields. But facing the space battleships of the Republic's elite forces, even if they are united, they are not opponents. What's more, they are just a group of rabble. Under the fierce attack of the space fleet, 30% of the spaceships were destroyed, and 30% of the spaceships were accepted after announcing their surrender. Most of the rest were forced to land on the surface of Tatoin. Only a very small number of spaceships ran away at the beginning of the war. Their captains are indeed wise enough. At that time, the situation was chaotic and several ships escaped. In the later stage of the air battle, it was completely impossible to escape. They were caught up and destroyed one by one. Anakin issued orders to his adjutant in a majestic and vigorous manner. "Captain Rex, outer space is in your hands. No ship is allowed to leave Tatoin before I come back." "Yes, sir," the clone captain numbered CT-7567 answered his chief officer firmly. He is a clone officer with outstanding military exploits and strong abilities. The combat plans of the 501st Legion are generally formulated by him. Including this battle. Anakin led half of the troops and took a landing craft to the surface of the planet. Outer space does need such an outstanding officer to guard it. In the original book, Rex, who was over 50 years old, reflected on the justice of the Galactic Empire after retiring. Later, he even joined the rebels against the Empire. So magical. Similarly, the leader's right guard did not go to the surface of the planet, but stayed in the spaceship with Padme to play with the two children. Instead, Mao Mao and Xiao Shenan were quite interested in war games. Just now in the air battle, they controlled dozens of the Republic's main fighters, titanium fighters, to participate in the battle. Because the fighters they controlled could cooperate perfectly, their combat effectiveness far exceeded that of other fighters. They fought very well in the air battle. Now the two of them have each divided a part of their computing power, controlled a robot army, and participated in the landing operation with great interest. Xiaoming was too lazy to pay attention to the two naughty children. He and Padme discussed political issues. "Queen Amidala, don't you think the current ruling model of the Republic is problematic? Padme is no longer a queen, but others are usually willing to respect her as a queen." Xiaoming was just teasing. She frowned slightly and asked, "My lord, there are too many problems in the Republic." "Which aspect do you mean?" "I'm talking about the distribution of ruling power. At present, the Republic is centered on the capital and expands outward in circles. The interior is very rich and the people live a relatively stable life. However, the further out it goes, the weaker the ruling power of the Republic becomes. Crime is getting more and more serious. Ordinary people even have problems surviving. Just like Tatoin. The queen frowned even deeper. The Republic has been like this for a long time. Do you have any solution? Xiao Ming did have a solution, but it was not something he thought of himself, but something he thought of based on the situation of the new Han Kingdom. He pointed to several locations on the map and said, "My idea is to build more political, economic, cultural, and military centers, that is, secondary capitals, here, here, and here in the outer circle of the galaxy. Within a certain area of the secondary capital, peace can be guaranteed in one area. Instead of returning everything to the capital Coruscant." Padme smiled and said, "This is indeed a solution, but the Parliament will not agree. This may lead to the division of the country." The Queen did not go into more details. It is obvious that she has considered this idea a long time ago. Even in history, many politicians have considered it and even promoted it. It's just that the capital is determined not to give up power. The people who block it are very complicated. The most important ones are the main members of the parliament. The establishment of a secondary capital will disperse their political power. Of course, they don't do it. The second is the big businessmen in the capital circle. They have a lot of interests in the capital. Once the secondary capital is built, many interests will be diluted. It is hard to give up good fortune. In addition, there are the remnants of the Sith, profiteers who collude with criminals, and ordinary parliamentarians who are bribed by profiteers. With so many obstacles, it is no wonder that things cannot be done. Xiao Ming smiled and said meaningfully, "Is the current parliament still the original parliament?" The two smiled at each other and stopped discussing this topic. Among the several secondary capital locations pointed out by Xiao Ming just now, there is Neighbor. And Tatoin can be completely divided into the jurisdiction of Neighbor. The Milky Way is really too big, so big that it is difficult for a central government to handle the situation everywhere. But the affairs of the secondary capital are too complicated, and Xiao Ming does not have enough political ability to do this. Now it is equivalent to entrusting this matter to Padme. With her ability, connections, Anakin's support, and the resources and technology left to her by the leader's right guard, she can quietly build Nabo into a similar secondary capital. By then, the parliament would have to accept this fait accompli. If she could operate well, she could even get the parliament to pass a resolution to build suitable secondary capitals in various places in the outer circle of the Milky Way. After all, the parliament was very weak at that time. In this way, the criminals in the Milky Way could only survive in some very small cracks. There would no longer be such good conditions for them in the outer circle. And fewer people would be harmed by them. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1267. This thing is too ugly. Can it still be considered a human? He looked at the guy who was kowtowing to Anakin and begging for mercy. The avatar of the Hades warrior of the sky crying star, wearing the harpy Hades clothes, was confused about the Hutt Jabba in front of him. This was Xiao Ming's first time seeing a Hutt. It was clearly a big bug, but it had a head, facial features, and two arms at the front of its body, so it seemed to be considered a human. In other words, the Hutt actually looked a bit like a Naga, but it was thick, fat, and particularly ugly. It didn't have the beauty of a Naga at all. Of course, as a civil servant of the underworld, Xiao Ming shouldn't judge people by appearance. This feeling was just the influence of his human habits. The reason why some of the Hades warriors, judges, of the sky crying star were sent to the surface was not for fighting, but only to distinguish between good and evil. Some people that Anakin was not sure whether to kill or not were decided by the judges. However, this Jabba didn't need the avatar of the Hades warrior to judge. Anakin had long hated him. After all, Anakin had spent his childhood on Tatooine, and he knew at least half of the bad guys in this gata. Jabba was the best of them. Jabba the Hutt was a hateful gangster, the leader of a well-known criminal group in the outer regions of the Milky Way. His base was on Tatooine. Jabba's fat black hands reached out to many evil activities that could bring him huge profits, such as slave trading, arms smuggling, spice smuggling, extortion, etc. Now he has finally done enough evil. This guy's appearance is as disgusting as his decadent spirit. He is bulky, like a big slug without legs and covered with mud. Jabba's monotonous face has a wide, drooling, toothless mouth. He looks quite ferocious. Two reptilian orange eyes greedily stare at the surrounding things from his huge head. He lived in a palace in the Tatooine desert that was eroded by wind and sand but still luxurious. Such an obvious building was naturally the first target of the 501st Legion. Although Jabba was surrounded by a group of lazy social scum, a group of thugs and mercenaries to ensure his personal safety. There were even some good guys among them. But no matter how powerful these guys were, they were no match for the battle-hardened 501st Clone Corps. The corpses lying all over the ground at the scene were very telling. Jabba was a complete villain who liked to have fun by torturing and humiliating his servants and slaves. He chained the female slaves, who were dressed very coolly, in the palace for entertainment. In the original book, Princess Leia, Anakin's daughter, became his female slave when she grew up, but she finally strangled Jabba with a chain with her own hands. By the way, the image of Princess Leia in a golden bikini in the original novel has become a classic in the hearts of countless otakus on Earth. Unfortunately, Xiao Ming does not have this blessing. In this life, Anakin's original plan was to send Jabba back to the capital of the Republic for trial. The execution of such a famous criminal will also enhance the reputation of the Republic. It will greatly help to stabilize Bail Organa's position as the Speaker. But when he saw the rows of slaves rescued by clone soldiers, his anger was so strong that he could not suppress it. He was also worried that this guy might use a huge amount of money to redeem his life. So he waved his lightsaber and directly chopped Jabba into 17 or 18 pieces. It was fate. Although Jabba did not die at the hands of Leia in this life, he died at the hands of her father. He died more than 10 years earlier. The group of slaves rushed up and actually ate the body of this guy. It can be seen how deep their hatred for him was. The Tiankuxing clone waved his hand, and Jabba's soul was taken into his pocket. Hurry up and check his life. Xiao Ming doesn't care about the bad things he did, the underworld will naturally give him a suitable punishment. Xiao Ming cares about Jabba's wealth. That is, the materials, money, treasures, business, etc. that he has accumulated. Jabba will definitely not keep all these things in this palace. As long as he is a successful criminal organization leader, he knows the principle of having 3 burrows. At least half of his wealth has been hidden by him. However, this kind of hiding is meaningless for the civil servants of the underworld. You can't fool the king of hell and the judge. The leader's right guard, Huang Xiaoming, on the spaceship quietly told Padme all the information. The group of slaves who ate Jabba saw Anakin kill Jabba with their own eyes, and they all rushed over to kneel down and thank Anakin. They cried bitterly, and some even cried bloody tears. Later, these people were sent to the Naboo galaxy. They were all die-hard fans of Anakin and his wife. Some of them even joined his army. This incident also baptized Anakin's soul. It's really good to be thanked for doing good things. It's much more comfortable than using force to scare people. The Tiankuxing clone had to use healing magic on all the slaves. After all, eating raw meat is not good for the body, and their physical constitution is very poor. If they don't treat them, they may get sick. If Anakin cut a dozen more swords, it would be better. The meat pieces will become smaller, and the high temperature of the lightsaber will roast the meat pieces by the way. Just think of it as eating barbecue. After dealing with Jabba, Anakin and his party walked out of Jabba's palace. A team of clone soldiers came to Anakin with a prisoner. The word arrested is not very accurate. It should be said that it is a pet bird. Watto was flying in the air, with shackles and chains tied to his body, more like flying a kite. When Skywalker was still young, he hated Watto, because Watto exploited them so badly. Later, when he was older and more sensible, Anakin was grateful to Watto. Fortunately, he won them away from Jabba's wife, Gadula the Hutt. If they had stayed in the hands of Jabba and his wife, they would have been tortured to death. Jabba didn't care about the life and death of one or two slaves. Usually, he might have executed a few because he was unhappy for a while. He really took human life lightly. Watto was different. He cherished the resources in his hands. He was reluctant to let the slaves die in vain, and even kept the slaves in basic health. He was a good master. Watto was a second-hand machinery retailer. Young Anakin learned many mechanical assembly skills from him and was known for his repair skills. The diplomatic robot C-3 PO was made by him when he was young to help his mother with her work. It can be seen that he was very talented. Watto really made a lot of money from Anakin, so he was okay with these two cash cows. Moreover, the death of Anakin's mother in the end had nothing to do with Watto. The last time he came to Tatooine, Anakin was furious and avenged his mother, but he did not hurt Watto. This time, Anakin sent people to capture him, not to avenge him, but to protect him. In war, laser guns have no eyes. What if this old guy relies on his ability to fly and chooses to escape, and it would be unfair to be shot dead? Later, this blue Toydarian became Anakin's royal merchant. Business was booming within the scope of the Naboo galaxy. This is all later. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1268. On the planet Tatooine, in a Sandman settlement deep in the desert. At this time, adult men went to the desert to hunt. There were only a dozen women doing housework here, and 7 or 8 children playing. Suddenly, a small breeze blew, and all these people fell asleep. Several strong banthas nearby were unaware and continued to shake their heads and gnaw on rare weeds. Bantha is a long-haired quadruped with curly horns. It looks very ordinary, probably equivalent to the yak on Earth. The amazing thing is that this creature is all over the galaxy. Until now, people still cannot explain this incredible mystery. This strange distribution led to the inevitable development of religions centered on banthas, and some monks worshipped this animal. Banthas are easy to domesticate, and their physiological characteristics vary as different species adapt to different environments. The entire galaxy treats them as draft animals. Their meat and milk are common food varieties, and bantha leather products such as bantha leather boots and bantha leather jackets are quite popular. A portal opened, and the leaders left guard, Green Xiaoming, and the fox demon Karama walked out from it. It was Karama who released the special pollen that made these sand people sleep. And it was Xiaoming who blew the pollen everywhere with the breeze. Karama has the ability to manipulate plants, and originally he could only manipulate the plants in the demon world in Yu Yu Hakusho. For example, he turned roses into whips, and leaves into long swords. Since following Xiaoming, he has experienced several very large reincarnation worlds, and inevitably obtained a large number of strange plant species, and Karama's combat power has become stronger. Even Xiaoming felt very envious. So over the years, Xiaoming often asked Karama and Fei Ying, 2 A-level big monsters, for a lot of blood, and accumulated a little. Now, he has finally absorbed enough. He can ensure that he can activate the copycat ability at any time, transform into Fei Ying or Karama, and use their special abilities. After years of asking them to donate blood, the total amount of blood they donated eventually almost exceeded their own weight. It is conceivable how much of a burden this has caused them. Xiaoming had to use a lot of source energy enhanced food to please the 2 followers. Even if they are followers, they cannot be used to death. Even so, Fei Ying had already made it clear. You are the boss, you can take my blood, but you must not touch my sister's blood. Otherwise, I will kill you. Shui Cai's fighting ability is average, Xiaoming is not particularly envious. Naturally, he agreed. This Sandman settlement just happened to cover a secret treasure house of Jabba. Originally, Xiaoming planned to leave this place to Anakin and Padme. Only this treasure house is very special. Green Xiaoming had a whim and actually came all the way from the capital to Tatooine, and brought Zangma with him. Although the Sandman tribe is an enemy of the Republic, Xiaoming still couldn't bring himself to kill some women and children. Sand people are also called Tuskens. In fact, they are the indigenous inhabitants of Tatooine. After humans came to this planet to colonize, they were forced to wander in the desert to survive. Fortunately, their body structure allows them to survive in the desert for a long time. Their armed forces are called Tusken Raiders. The distinction between men and women among the Sand people is extremely clear. Women are responsible for managing the tents, while men are responsible for hunting and fighting. The Sand people are extremely xenophobic. They will attack all non-Sand people races in the desert, and they are very vicious. Jabba placed his treasure in places where the Sand people often appeared, also for safety reasons. A few people could not break through the blockade of the Sand people. When he needed to take something, he could lead a large force to drive the spacecraft. Others did not have this strength. Xiaoming used his mental power to search and find the correct direction. The two of them passed through the portal again and came to an underground cave several dozen meters deep. As expected, there were a large number of treasures hoarded here, which were absolutely priceless. But Xiaoming was only interested in one kind, that is, Kyber crystal. This crystal is an important material for making lightsabers, and the color of the lightsaber generally corresponds to the color of the crystal. By using Kyber crystals, the force can be collected and amplified. In addition, Kyber crystals are very resistant to the dark side of the Force. It will not appear in front of Sith or other users of the dark side of the Force. If Sith want to use Kyber crystals to make lightsabers, they must use the dark force to force the crystals to yield. In that process, the crystals will turn red like bleeding. Therefore, Sith lightsabers are all red. Natural Kyber crystals are mostly blue-green, and there are also white, red, yellow, orange, blue, purple, pink, amber, and other colors. This underground treasure house contains most of the Kyber crystals collected by Jabba, more than 30 pieces. It is really worth Xiaoming's trip. With so many blueprints, Xiaoming estimates that he can use alchemy to make this kind of crystal after studying it for a while. Although this thing is only of great use to Sith and Jedi Knights, its price has always been high in the galaxy. Jabba is also a capable person, and he actually collected so many. Xiaoming put all the crystals in his pocket without hesitation and prepared to leave. I still feel a little awkward. I always feel that it seems unnecessary to come here in person. Could it be that my intuition is wrong? That's not right, Master Yoda didn't say that. After learning the Force, my intuition should be more accurate. At this moment, Xiaoming suddenly noticed something strange. Looking carefully, a group of strange creatures were flying towards here in the distance. Xiaoming almost thought that the Zerg had come. Only after a careful look did he see that it was a group of Genosian soldiers. This race is the native inhabitants of the barren rocky planet Geonosis. It is an insectoid creature with a strict hierarchy. Similar to the Zerg, they also build huge organic-like spires and live in nests in the towers. The height ranges from about 1.68 meters to 1.78 meters. Very average. The Genosians are divided into two categories, wingless laborers, and winged nobles and royal soldiers. The royal soldiers serve as scouts and are responsible for defending the nest. All Genosians have hard chitin exoskeletons, long faces, limbs, and use a strange language that sounds like a ticking sound. They look thin, but they are actually strong. Their hard bone shells can resist physical damage and the occasional radiation from the planet Genosian. The Genosians are simple-minded, but they are good at mechanical manufacturing. They have contracts with many large manufacturing companies in the galaxy. The automatic robots purchased by the Trade Federation were made by them. It is also because of this that Xiaoming knows the name of this race. It can be said that he has long admired them. It is said that some of the most amazing projects in history were created by the Genosians. In the original book, Sidious built the Death Star with their help. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1269. The Genosians have something in common with the aforementioned Kaminoans. They are all people who get paid to do things and have no position themselves. Not biased towards either the Jedi or the Sith. Usually such people are considered to be on both ends of the spectrum, and may be dealt with by both parties. Especially the Sith side, who turned their backs and disowned others. But these two races do have the ability to not take sides. Their own skills are really strong. And it's irreplaceable. In the original work, the Kaminoans accepted orders from the Jedi in the early days to produce clone legions. In the later era of the Galactic Empire, they continued to provide clone soldiers to the Empire. This is especially true for the Genosians, who provided robots for the Trade Federation in the early stage and helped the Empire build the Death Star in the later stage. This shows its importance. Xiaoming feels that these two races are a bit like the Zerg and gods in the real world. The Kaminoans have an elegant temperament and are somewhat similar to the gods. To be honest, it looks better than the Protoss. The Genosians are also a race that evolved from insects. In appearance, they are comparable to the Zerg. It's just a bit monotonous, not as complex as the Zerg species. In terms of strength, unless there are Jedi Knights or Sith among their clan. Otherwise, compared with the gods and Zerg, these two races are still far behind. Having said that, if the world of Pangustar is really what Yoshiko Kawashima thinks, it is actually the world of reincarnation that was transformed into a private world and merged into reality. Then the origins of the three star systems of Yan and Huang and the three alien races of humans, gods, and insects are probably very fishy. The harsh living environment and harsh social hierarchy have cultivated the barbaric side of the Genosians. Their simple minds view brutal violence as entertainment. Genosians often gathered in the Colosseum to watch their condemned victims being mauled to death by wild beasts. Their hierarchy developed over thousands of years. Each tribe member is marked with a class from birth, and different classes even have different physical characteristics. The rule of the aristocracy was cruel and ruthless, and forced laborers risked everything to work in various cruel environments. From this point of view, the Genosians are far inferior to the Zerg. The alien Zerg just look a little ferocious, which is not in line with human aesthetics. In fact, the social structure of the Zerg is quite fair and reasonable. Every Zerg is well fed and well housed. The Zerg below the level of dominance do not have personal property, so there is no such thing as exploitation. Xiaoming actually admires it very much. The royal soldiers of the Genosians have the bravery of the Zerg. Occasionally appears on the mercenary stage. But rarely do so many appear at the same time. There are a total of 56 royal soldiers and 2 nobles. No matter how you look at it, they are unlikely to be mercenaries, more like people specially sent from Geonosis itself. In Xiaoming's observation, the instrument in the hand of one of the nobles should be pointing in his direction. Everyone flew here following this instrument. This is Jabba's secret treasure house, and it's unknown what the Genosians are here for. But these guys are fierce and full of killing intent. There is an aura that kills people if they stand in the way, and kills the Buddha if they stand in the way of Buddha. Xiaoming was convinced that if they rushed to the Sandman tribe on the ground, they would definitely kill all the women and children without hesitation. Now that I am here, I cannot let them do such evil things. With a thought in his mind, Xiao Ming appeared in front of the group of Genosians with Kurama. As expected, the other party didn't even ask. Without hesitation, he raised the sonic blaster in his hand and fired rapidly at the seemingly helpless two people. Then, there was a sword light flying, and all the Genosians had their wings, hands, and feet cut off by their Zanpakuto, and fell to the ground. Completely lost his ability to fight. 10,000 swords technique was a move that could trap even Pu Fu, and these unscrupulous guys had no way of resisting. It's just that Xiao Ming is too lazy to kill. The two people walked forward unharmed, and Xiao Ming activated his telepathy. It took only a moment to understand the ins and outs of the matter. It's actually very simple. They are indeed from the Genosian home world. This time I came here just for Jabba's treasure house. The main purpose is precisely those kyber crystals. Of course, if they see other things, they won't let them go and will definitely pack them away together. Why do the Genosians suddenly need kyber crystals? Because the kyber crystal is one of the core components of the super weapon Death Star super laser cannon. A while ago, Sidious's men contacted them and proposed a deal to hire them to help build the Death Star at a high price. Building machinery is their favorite, not to mention the ultimate weapon like the Death Star. The Genosian leaders immediately agreed. The so-called Death Star is actually an artificially constructed metal celestial body. The main weapon is a super laser cannon that can destroy entire planets. The design volume of the Death Star is very large. According to the current preliminary plan, its diameter is 160 kilometers long. It is truly the ultimate weapon. Sidious plans to use this weapon to make a comeback. The Genosians, on the other hand, plan to make a name for themselves with the Death Star. Each takes what he needs. Super laser cannons require a large amount of kyber crystals. Sidious was wasting no time collecting. He is not the emperor of the empire in the original work now, who can call upon the resources of this galaxy. Now he has to go around plundering and harvesting crystals. But be very careful. After all, most of the Republic's crystal production is controlled by the state. Although Sidious had a chance to grab it, he didn't dare to do it directly. Because doing so would definitely alert the Jedi Order. Even before he did it, the Force might remind Master Yoda and others. So Sidious had to do it secretly. Try to collect those kyber crystals that are not under the surveillance of the Republic. Jabba's collection was naturally targeted by them. A few days ago, the Genosians sent a team to discuss this deal with Jabba. Although both parties knew that Jabba must have a large number of kyber crystals. However, Jabba gritted his teeth and refused to let go. His purpose was nothing more than to raise the price. The Genosians didn't dare to force it. Although Jabba's troops couldn't deal with the 501st Legion, it was no problem to deal with this small group of Genosians. The two sides could only argue. However, the Sith were not easy to deal with. Through certain means, they learned that the kyber crystals and some treasures were hidden by Jabba on the planet Tatooine. Kyber crystals cannot be detected, but one of the treasures can be. It's just that the distance at which this detector works is limited. So several high-ranking members of the Genosian people continued to negotiate with Jabba, and another team was sent to carry the detector to explore the planet. Prepare to rob the robbers. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Anakin led his army down from the sky. Their spacecraft in space was destroyed. Those guys who negotiated with Jabba were captured by the 501st Legion. And the group of guys who came out to find the treasure house met Xiao Ming by chance, and their end was even worse. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1270. Geonosis has a long history of business dealings with the Sith. At the beginning, Sidious encouraged the Trade Federation to cause trouble, which was the robots and production lines purchased here. Later the separatist movement swept across the galaxy. The droid manufacturing plant and the remote location of Geonosis make the planet an ideal military base for the separatist movement. Archduke Bogle the Low of Geonosis presided over an important summit of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Bogle is the leader of the large group of insectoid Genosians. Unlike other Genosians, he has an insectoid version of a long beard. Although he was born in a lower caste, Boger had great ambitions. In the early days, Boger united other lower-class people to form a rebel army in an attempt to challenge the Genosian nobles. His behavior was secretly supported, or used, by Darth Sidious, and Bogle, who gained power, firmly held the title of Grand Duke. He eliminated dissidents, purged all Genosians who were dissatisfied with him, and threw them into the arena to be executed by wild beasts. Owing a favor to Darth Sidious, Bogle increased production at the Genosian arsenal. Build a massive army of battle droids for the Sith Lord and be responsible for building the ultimate weapon, the Death Star. Note that Bogle helps the Sith just to return a favor. Genosians only care about money. After Sidious's coup failed, he still followed the orders of the Council. There was no full-scale fall to the Sith. Because of this, he was not eliminated by the new parliament. The business magnates present at the Bogle Conference, including but not limited to the Trade Federation, all offered their mechanized armies to Count Dooku. Count Dooku was originally a Jedi Master, but later voluntarily gave up his Jedi status because he hated the corruption of the Republic, and eventually defected to the Sith. He became Sidious's apprentice and led the separatist movement under his instruction. He was a very charismatic leader. The separatists prepare for war, but their plans are overheard by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Unfortunately, he was captured and news spread. Later, 200 Jedi Knights went to the rescue, but suffered heavy losses under the siege of massive robots. In the end, it was Master Yoda who brought the clone army to victory. Even though the Genosians blatantly supported separatism, they were not wiped out by the Republic. Because they have too many business partners, and the major business giants have a great influence on the Republic Council, Geonosis has not been substantially punished so far. This also shows that the Republic's parliament is indeed relatively corrupt. Money can make the world go round. After Bail Organa took office as the interim speaker, he was besieged on all sides and faced many crises. Don't dare to provoke them. Avoid pushing them completely to the Sith side. After several years of struggle, the new parliament gradually gained the upper hand. After Xiao Ming conquered the Trade Alliance, the parliament discovered that the robot army was indeed useful. As a result, the new council also gave long-term orders to Geonosis. Therefore, the current situation is that the Genosians continue to take advantage of both sides. On one side, he built a robot army for the Republic, and on the other side, he helped Sidious build the Death Star. The Death Star feels like the Iserlohn Fortress in Galaxy Chronicles to Xiao Ming. But it is more powerful and more outrageous. The main gun of Iserlohn Fortress, Mjolnir, is only powerful enough to destroy tens of thousands of warships in one blow. The Death Star's main gun can destroy a planet with one hit, which is completely different. If the Sith really succeeds in building the Death Star, it goes without saying that the threat of the Death Star alone can make the Republic and the Jedi Order bow their heads and negotiate. Without further ado, Lu Xiaoming and Kurama immediately took these Genosians back to the Jedi Temple. And he appeared directly at the Jedi Council meeting venue. At the same time, the leader, Yin Xiaoming, who was practicing in the underground training ground, also informed Master Yoda. The two went to the venue together to hold a committee meeting. Other committee members, even if they are not present, can also use communicators to participate in the meeting. These Genosians could not resist the hypnotic ability of the Jedi, and they poured out everything they knew like beans from a bamboo tube. Although they didn't know much, the news of the Death Star alone shocked the Jedi Supreme Council enough. Fortunately, construction of the Death Star had just begun. Master Obi-Wan Kenobi hurriedly said, "No. We must stop the construction of the Death Star, otherwise the Republic will be completely destroyed. It seems that this matter is indeed terrible, and even Master Obi-Wan, who has always been a good old man, is anxious. Several other masters agreed with his opinion. It's just that this is all nonsense. Everyone knows it must be stopped. The key question is what exactly should be done? The Jedi Council alone is no longer enough to deal with this problem. So Master Yoda invited the new Speaker Bell and several important officials of the new parliament to discuss it together. With these relatively mature politicians, many things can be sorted out. Everyone decided to divide their troops into several groups and take action. The first thing to deal with is intelligence. The galaxy is very vast, and it is not easy to find the base where the Sith built the Death Star. However, for such a huge project as building the Death Star, even the Sith would not be able to start building several Death Stars at the same time, only one at most. At the same time, this project will consume a lot of construction materials, manpower, and material resources. Transportation is also a huge problem. As long as we carefully trace the direction of relevant resources, we can always find clues. The early intelligence is provided by the Republic's intelligence organization. Following the suspicious intelligence, the Jedi Knights need to take action. Under the guidance of the Force, Jedi Knights are more likely to find key information than ordinary spies. The second route is to control key materials. To build the Death Star, a lot of top-notch technology products are needed. These things can be controlled and traced. Especially kyber crystals. This kind of material happens to be needed by the Jedi Order, and it can be used as an excuse to compete with the Sith for resources. In terms of financial resources, the Republic will strongly support the Jedi Temple, and the two sides are probably tied. However, the Temple has a reputation for righteousness. It will definitely have the upper hand in the competition for resources. The third route is to deal with Genosius. Both the Parliament and the Jedi Committee hope to win over the Genosians. Let's build a Death Star ourselves, so that the Genosians don't have to guard the Sith. Without their help, the progress of the Sith was slowed down by at least 4 times. However, the construction of the Death Star requires design drawings. This thing can't be made by just talking. At present, the best thing is to get the Sith blueprints. It is estimated that the Genosians must have a copy. We must send a capable person to Geonosis. In addition, there are many other tasks to be handled, and the activities of suppressing the separatist forces cannot be stopped. Both the Republic and the Jedi Order are in a state of extreme shortage of manpower. The matter of going to Geonosis can only be left to Xiao Ming.